Delta Force Hawk Ops is going to be the Escape from Tarkov-Killer. I am calling it now, and in this video I'm going to be telling you 9 things it does just so much better than Escape from Tarkov. Firstly, it's easy to understand. From healing to customizing your weapons to completing tasks, everything about Delta Force Hawk Ops is just so much easier to understand and so much more accessible than it is in Escape from Tarkov. This might be a bad thing for those that like huge learning curves or learning maps, but for most players, I think this is probably just going to be a pretty big plus. I think having a game be easier to get into, to pick up and play, is just going to be better for most people and also good for the overall health of the game long term. Number 2 is reviving. You can revive. That is not something you can do in Tarkov at all. Not only can you revive a downed teammate, but you can also revive a teammate that's completely eliminated as well, provided that you do it within the time limit, which I think is 2 minutes. But nevertheless, the ability to revive in a distraction shooter is just very, very, very refreshing. If your teammate goes down, they don't get sent back to the lobby, they don't have to do a scav run while you finish your game or anything like that. You just go revive them, and then you're both back up. And this feels great, especially when you like die to like an AI or something. It's so nice knowing that you can just get picked up instead of being sent back to the lobby because you got, you know, killed by a miracle grenade by a scav or something like that. 3. Free daily kits, which means no scavving. If you've ever played Escape from Tarkov, then you've probably run out of money pretty quickly, and as a result, you probably have to do scav runs to make money. Scav runs take a lot of time, and they aren't on your main character, so they really just feel pretty annoying to do. But in this game, you have daily kits. You've got a certain amount of free daily kits that you can use, extract with, and then keep, all on your main character, meaning you can complete objectives and work towards upgrading your hub, all while getting rich at the same time, which is fantastic. 4. It's not the only game mode. So, right now, there is the Tactical Turmoil game mode, which is kind of the extraction shooter game mode, which is what all of this footage is from and which is what I'm playing. But there's also like just a whole Battlefield game mode which you can play that's basically just Battlefield but in this game. So I've played Tarkov before and I've got burnt out of it because that happens pretty quickly. So instead of like playing Tarkov and then having to play Arena, which is a completely different game that you have to go and buy, you can play Tarkov, and you can play Arena, but they're 2 completely separate games, and they take a while to boot up, so maybe you don't really feel like doing that, right? But in this game, you choose the Tactical Turmoil mode, you play that, or you just choose the other game mode and they play that, and it's very, very, very easy to switch between both of them. And it's also just a fantastic mode for just like trying out all of the different operators and all of the different weapons, and just like it's a very, very like pick up and play game mode, and it's more of a casual game mode, but it's also just pretty fun. So it's really nice to have that as a second option, and I'm pretty sure there is a campaign coming as well, which will obviously be a whole new game mode, but that's not out right now. 5. The game runs. The game runs well. It's at least decent for me, and even though that's to be expected with like good hardware, which is what I have, Streets of Tarkov is still framey for me, and also matchmaking times and loading times are just a complete joke in Escape from Tarkov. They're normally 5 minutes long. A lot of the time you'll load into a game and you'll spend longer doing that than you will in the actual game because you just get insta head eyes by a cheater or something. But in this game, the matchmaking times are, you know, decent, and the loading times are decent, and the game runs well and it performs well. Obviously, there are some bugs here and there because this is, you know, a download. It's like a beta demo for the game, but I'd say it still has fewer bugs than Escape from Tarkov, which is kind of impressive in a way. So yeah. 6. It's very, very, very easy to differentiate between AI enemies and bosses. So I probably have about 300 hours in Tarkov, maybe a little bit more, and I absolutely still cannot tell at all the difference between real enemy human players and just the AI scav in Tarkov. But that's not a problem in this game. It's just so easy to tell who's who and what's what in this game. It's very, 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 very good. And also when you like get an assist or get a kill, it also tells you what you killed. So you don't have to like guess if it was a player or a scav. You can just visually see and get visual confirmation that what you killed was like a player or an AI or a boss. So you know whether or not it's worth going to loot them. 7 is abilities. So you have different operators in Delta Force Hawk Ops, and they all have different abilities, allowing you to play however you prefer. it also gives a whole lot more replay value to the game. So in Tarkov, it's always the same thing. You load in, you try and get a task done, and then you probably get head-eyed by someone that knows that you're there because you made more noise than them, and they've got a really good headset or something like that. And even if you like finish all of the tasks in Tarkov, it can definitely get a little bit stale. But in this game, I feel like even if you completed like all of the tasks that there are to complete, you like max out your character and you max out your hub and all of that stuff, I feel like you can still probably have fun just messing around with operators that you wouldn't usually play, or some of the operators that you maybe don't put the most time into, which I think would definitely add a lot more replay value to it. And then it would obviously also add a kind of like easy to learn, hard to master thing, which I think is good as well. Number 8 is an interactive map. So if you've ever played Escape from Tarkov, then you probably know the website Map Genie, because that's how you have to learn the maps in Tarkov if you don't want to die, by using an external site. In this game, the map is just fully interactive. You can see yourself, you have your squad mates, exfils, contracts, and objectives. You can see everything. You press M, the whole map's in front of you, and you can see everything, and it's great. And I don't need to have a second monitor or my phone open to look at a map just to know where I am and where I'm going. And that's definitely a huge thing in Tarkov. You don't know where you are when you're starting out, especially if you're playing like solo when you're starting out. You're just going to feel so lost, and this game just feels so much easier to just pick up and play, and the map is a huge part of that. Number 9 is contracts and things you can do in-game to earn you currency, which you can use to access paid extraction. So there are contracts in this, and what those are is just little kind of mini games or subtasks that you can do in-game to just get you a little bit of like the in-game currency you use to buy weapons and stuff. In Tarkov, that's not really a thing. You just go in, try and get your tasks done, come out, get the rewards from the tasks, and in this that's the objective as well, but you can also do like subtasks, or kind of like the contracts is what they're called, just to try and get, you know, good stuff. They all have, you know, certain chances of dropping higher tier loot if you complete them, which kind of incentivizes you to do them, and sometimes they do drop that high tier loot. I've done them a couple of times myself, and sometimes it's just worth it, sometimes it's not. But either way, you always get a certain amount of cash, which then you can use in-game to take like a paid exfil, kind of like the car exfils in Tarkov, but you can earn the currency in-game to do that instead of having to bring the currency in with you, which I think is a pretty cool way of doing it. So it means that the more you do like while you're in the match, the more exfil options that you have, which I think is pretty cool. So, I've given 9 reasons why Delta Force is just better than Tarkov, but now I'm going to talk about some minor things that I would love to see in Delta Force Hawk Ops itself. The first one would be to make it so that items you need for the Black Site, which is Delta Force's equivalent of the hideout, are marked, so you don't have to like memorize what you need, and so you don't accidentally sell stuff that you actually want to upgrade your hub. This is something that Tarkov only recently implemented, but I think it would be just a huge like quality of life change for this game. I'd also like to see weapon mantling, so being able to place your weapon on a box or something like that so you don't have to expose unnecessary amounts of yourself when you're trying to hold an angle. I think that would be pretty good. Also something Tarkov only very recently implemented, but I think it would make sense for this game because it is still a tactical shooter, despite having, you know, despite being not as, you know, hardcore as Tarkov, and despite having like hero abilities and all of that, it definitely still is a tactical shooter, and there are times where playing slow is just the better decision and it's going to give you the upper hand in the fight. So I feel like being able to weapon mantle and, you know, peek corners and stay, you know, in cover in nice positions, and whether it's like marking an entry or an exit way, I feel like that would be good, and you can do that via mantling. All in all, I think Delta Force Hawk Ops is just the better game by a significant amount. So if you want to try it out yourself, then I recommend just installing it, because there is currently a free demo on Steam, which is what all of this gameplay in the background is from. But yeah, Tarkov, just to finish things up, I'm just going to go on a little rant here now. Just to finish things up, Tarkov was in a pretty bad spot for quite a while. It never really left the bad spot. It's just been getting worse and worse and worse. And then eventually, it shot itself in the foot completely. And they did that by saying to the entire community that they weren't ever going to have any DLC stuff. And then they added a DLC that wasn't labeled as a DLC. It was like a PvE mode that was literally just DLC, but they said it wasn't DLC. And then they actually added more DLC stuff more recently, I think, adding like skins and stuff like that that you can buy, which actually gives you a pretty huge advantage because some of them are like camo skins, so it's harder to spot you in certain areas. So Tarkov has just been really, really downhill, and then also they added the PvE mode. I think I said that already, which kind of split the player base a lot as well. And so, you know, the new players in Tarkov, the players that are new that are coming to the game has gone significantly down, which means in every match you're just going to play against either like a pro player that has like hundreds of hours in the game, or just a cheater. And that's just the sad reality of where Tarkov is at right now, because everyone else is just playing the PvE game mode so that they don't have to deal with the cheaters and all of that. But Tarkov, I mean, Delta Force hookups, I think, could just kind of fill the void that Tarkov left for a lot of people. A lot of people just had enough of Tarkov's bugs and performance issues and matchmaking issues, because a lot of people don't have a whole lot of time to play a game, right? But with this, I feel like you can just play in one match, load in quick, get back out, and then call it a day. And you can do that with the other game mode in this game as well. So I really just feel like it's pretty superior. It's much simpler as well. I know a lot of people won't like the simpler stuff in it, but I think a lot of people will. A lot of new players will, and new players are really the lifeblood of games and what keeps games alive. So I do just think that this is going to be the Tarkov-Killer, and depending on how the devs handle it, which has been pretty well so far, because I think they've been pretty communicative with the community and all of that, I think that this game is going to be pretty good, and I think it's going to go pretty far. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you'd like to leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Farewell.